Hello and welcome back to another Subway Builder video. We are still here in Philadelphia, and in this video we're going to look towards expanding our D line and potentially even our F line if we have some leftover funds. And so I think our goal in this video is to add some stations to our D line so we can get some more ridership going on here, as our D line is right now our least ridden line. And I think what we want to do is turn it on Oregon Ave, have an intersection with our A line down here, and then continue bringing it over and then turn it up. And we'll either end it off here at our Front Street station, or we'll bring it all the way up to here to our Flores Street station. We'll just have to sort of see how much money we have left over, because we do also want to add a few more lines to our existing D line as well. And so I think we're going to get one station here at South Street, because we'll be starting to think about that future connection when we eventually end up having a line come across here. And then we'll get another station probably around where this Tasker station is, between our Washington Ave and our 25th Street station, so that we can start to get a bit more of these people involved in our subway network. And then we have our F line here, where I think it'd be nice to get one or two more stations tacked onto the end of this if we have the money to do so. If not, that's okay, but our F line is one of our bigger money-making lines, so I think if we can expand that at some point, that would be pretty beneficial to us. And so before we do all this, let's just take a quick look at our demand stats. We'll get an idea of the people we're going to pick up and some of the destinations that are around. So again, with our D line, we're going to sort of loop it around Philadelphia, and that'll give us access to all of these people over here that have yet to be able to reach our subway network. So this should provide the D line with a good amount of ridership, provided we make the necessary connections. So that's very important, and we have a few nodes here where if we add that station between Washington Ave and 25th Street, we can get those people in as well. But that means nothing if we're not getting them near any working areas. So we still have our Market Street station, which is really where most of the people are going to be going. We have a few nodes down here, which hopefully once we connect up to our Oregon Ave line, or our Oregon Ave station, that will provide a good transfer point, and people can take the D line south instead of just going north into Center City. And then we will also be connecting into a bunch of these more medium-sized workers nodes. So hopefully there's some people that we'll be connecting to that need to get here, and we can start to take advantage of that. Alright, so let's start by getting our new line here in on South Street on our D line. And so what I think we're going to do, just so that we can make the most of our money, since if we add a station in here, we would have to delete all this track and rebuild it, which would be pretty expensive in just track alone. So what we're going to do, since we can't delete smaller segments, we would probably have to delete between this corner all the way up to Market Street of our tracks. We're going to add some just really tiny connecting bits. You can see that only costs 3 million, so we can just remove the section that's going to be where our platform is, and then we can put in our station, and that should be relatively cheap compared to demolishing this corner, this whole straight to Market Street, putting in the station, and then rebuilding all the tracks. Alright, so now we have our station built in here. That's connected to Market Street and our Washington Ave. And then we just need another one here at Tasker. And so again, the simplest way to do this is to just add one track in the blueprint, and that'll pretty much, from my understanding, create a node at that intersection, which allows us to just delete the segment of track in between. and then we can build our station. So we'll get that lined up with the street. So just like that, and then we should be able to just connect these back in. It is a little annoying that the speed limit gets a little bit messed up by that. If we really wanted to fix that, we could probably just pull this back a little bit farther, give the track builder a little bit more space to smooth out the curve. So if we do this now, it looks like that's 27 miles an hour. Not sure why. That's pretty straight on. I'm not sure why it has trouble connecting. Unless maybe this is on a different level. Alright, so this station will only cost us 100 million to put in. We'll build that one as well. So now we have 2 more stations on our D line. We can come back and edit our D line to include all these new stations. And so then from this point on, we don't have to come back through and add more stops to our D line. We can just keep extending to the end as we wrap it around the city. Alright, so as we continue to think about where our D line is going to go, I think our next station is going to intersect right here with 20th Street. And so this will just come straight across like that. And then we will have, of course, another intersection here with Oregon Ave. And hopefully it looks like we can go under it. So we will do that. And then connecting these tracks should be pretty simple. There shouldn't be anything that's too expensive here. So we can make those 2 connections. That will be also for a somewhat low cost of 218 million. That is going to be a good chunk of our money. So we're going to continue to let the game run as we build out these blueprints and hope that we can start to get a bit more of that money coming in. But we will just continue editing the route. And we'll have to discard our changes quick as we forgot to add a crossover at Oregon Ave. So we'll throw that in. And now we should be able to extend this line. Confirm those changes. And then I think I'm okay with our frequencies for now still. We have a 10-minute frequency for high demand, 15 for medium, and 30 for low. I think pretty soon here we'll have to get another train on our high demand. But we can worry about that once we get there. And so continuing onward with our blueprints, we can finally start to tap into some untouched areas of Philadelphia. As we go into Southeast Philly, we can have a station here on 7th Street. And then I think we should pull up our demands and see what's in this area. If there's anything worth building at the corner here. And so there's nothing really too much going on right here. So I think we'll get even closer to this node and build a station right here along this street. Just so that we can incentivize people just that little bit more to take our subway. So we can throw that in right there. Actually, we'll pull that down 1 block because I think I might want to try to put a station right here. We'll see what kind of demand is in the area, but let's connect what we have first. That connection can be made pretty easily, and then we're going to have a bit of a tight turn here as we come up to this station, and hopefully we have the space to make it. It's going to be pretty slow, but it does look like we do have the space to make it. I think we'll have to be okay with 11 miles an hour just for that sharp turn. And then hopefully that won't mess up our crossover. It looks like we can still get a crossover point just as easily there. And we can see here we have insufficient funds, so we have run out of money at this point. We need 247 million, which we're pretty close to getting, so we could probably just wait a few hours and we'll be there. And a few hours later we can build this new section of track. And then after expanding this line, we can confirm our changes. I'll let this play. And I think now's a good opportunity for us to increase our frequency a bit. And so with 5 more cars, we can afford to bring up our high demand to 4 trains. We'll bring our medium demand up to 3. And we'll keep our low demand at 1 for now. I think once we finish up what our vision is with this line, we can bring that up to 2 or even 3, although I don't think this line warrants the demand for that. But we can see some red dots popping up at our 2 new stations, so it is getting used, and hopefully we'll see that bring in a bit more money to the D line. And while we wait for our money to slowly build back up, we can probably start taking a look at some of our analytics and see how our changes to the D line has affected not only the line itself, but the rest of our system. We can take a look at our demand stats, and I've noticed a few more purple areas down here, which is exciting to see. Somehow this is very purple. It looks like we've gotten lucky enough to have our lines covering almost everywhere it needs to go besides this one far out node in this direction. But we are connecting to the airport. We're connecting to some of these center city areas. It's a bit odd that we're not able to get this connection here. I wonder if we can maybe try to find that one. And so I guess it just seems this road makes it much more efficient to drive to work as opposed to going up to City Hall and then taking the B line over. That makes sense. There is an opportunity in the future that we do pretty much this exact route with a subway line. That is going to be a much farther down the line project, since that'll pretty much just be making connections that we already have, just making them quicker. So that won't be on our priorities list for a little bit. But let's take a look at some of the areas our D line is covering. This node, which is one we wanted to get with our Tasker Street station, looks like we are able to cover the areas over here. It looks like we have a decent amount of people coming down to this station, which is a pretty nice coincidence. And then we are actually almost able to reach all the way up here to this node. I think we would just have to extend our B line 1 or 2 more stations, and that could be doable. Don't know if we'll extend our B line that far. I think this is getting pretty far up for a subway line. But we do still need to make some connections up here, so who knows, maybe we do make that connection eventually. And then one thing I wanted to take a look at is this workers node here and see if we're able to cover anyone with this. And it looks like a lot of the people that are coming here are coming from outside of the main area of Philadelphia. So unfortunately, this stop isn't going to help us until we either extend our C line a bit farther, or maybe we extend our A line across the river and come into New Jersey with it. Or maybe here we switch to light metro and then have a whole bunch of light metro branching lines come out here that meets up with our A line. That could be a possibility and something interesting to test out if we sort of have a connection here to our heavy metro system, and this sort of acts as a transfer hub between a huge branching light metro network, and it sort of all concentrates into this point. I'm not sure how that would work out, but that might be a fun experiment to try. Now let's just take a look at some of the other nodes around here. It looks like some of them we are covering, like this one seems to make pretty good sense. It looks like we actually just lost that one a little bit. We can see this broken down by income. And so I'm not sure how to incentivize higher income people to take this line, unless maybe it needs to be more direct or we need to make our tickets cheaper. Although I feel like the more income you have, the less you care about ticket prices, but I'm not sure exactly how that math works within the game. But now we can switch over to route ridership, and we can see our D line is now competing with our F line, which our F line is this one here. And so that's actually good to see. I think now this D line is actually getting to a point where it's worth keeping and investing in. And I think if we extended up 1 or 2 stations to our E line and then eventually up to here, we could get this up to 20 to 25,000 riders, I would say. And then station ridership here, nothing crazy on our D line. It looks like most of our new ones are sitting at about 2K, which seems about right given that they're in a little bit less populated areas and these aren't necessarily commercial hubs that we're putting our stations at, like the City Hall one or any of these other ones up here. And so I think these will continue to increase, especially over here as we expand up the river and start making some of these connections to make taking the D line much more efficient. If we can connect here, it would start to make sense for people to take the train north instead of coming down to our Oregon Ave transfer station. So I think we've saved up almost enough money, or we've saved up at least to the point where we can plan this out and then see how much money it's going to cost. And I've taken a bit of time already to take a look at this area, and I think what we're going to do is have a stop right along here intersecting this street, although I don't think this street is an intersection. But we'll still get a station right here. And then I believe we have to go down to make this connection. So we'll go -9 meters. And there appears to be a building. So maybe we go and we turn this a little bit over so we don't have to demolish the building when we make this connection. We can just bring that right about there. And so now we can avoid this building. We don't have to do a 2x cost station. And we should be able now to just connect these up with tracks. And it looks like we can't just simply connect those. We'll have to spread this out a bit. But now it looks like we can get a full speed connection there. Don't really like how that curves around. I think we can still get a 55-mile-an-hour curve without having to swing in towards the buildings. So that's a little bit better. And then this line should be able to just connect station to station. We'll add that crossover and take a look at our costs. And it is again about 240 million. Which we are only about 30 million away from. So another short waiting period and we should be able to extend this line back up and connect with our E line. And we've now connected everything up. Let's come in here. I think we should actually buy another train to put on our high demand line. I think, well, maybe we keep it at 4. This line doesn't get used too heavily, but I do think we'll get 2 trains running during low demand. And we'll see how that goes. We can see down here our trains that are currently running. It looks like there's 4 trains, so this is because it's in a high demand time slot. So you can see our trains aren't necessarily getting overloaded. And so with this connection made at Washington Ave, I think we might be able to draw in a couple of more people to take at least these few stations north to here and make some connections that way. So we'll have to let this run for a little bit. I don't think we have enough money to really do any other expansions elsewhere. but we'll take a look at how everything looks after we let a day go by and all the stats update, and I think that might be a good stopping point. Alright, so this line has had some time to run. I'm not sure if it's been quite a full day yet, but we should have enough information to start doing some analysis. We can see our demand stats. Nothing much has changed. If we zoom out, I don't think there's been any huge changes across the map. Some of these dots might turn a bit more purple as people update and their routes update. As for workers, it looks like this one is purple. I'm not too sure if it's always been purple, but it must have been, since none of those nodes are necessarily new connections that we've made in this video. And then one thing I forgot that we could do, if we click and drag this, we can see where most of these people are going. And it looks like a lot of them are going to Center City, so I think maybe once we get this connection made where this connects to our B line, we might actually have some people starting to use this more. Then looking at everything else, it looks like our D line is still roughly even with our F line. So I think that makes some amount of sense. This isn't really connected to any sort of massive node that's really important, but it is moving enough people around. Looking at station ridership, doesn't look like this is going too crazy. Although it's a bit odd that it looks like these are two separate nodes and they're not connecting. I feel like this should be counted as a station group. Maybe I'll look into that and see if maybe something weird is going on here with those. But again, nothing too crazy with any of our new stations. And taking a look at our money, which is probably the most important thing here, we can see we've slowly been increasing our revenue, and it looks like we've stayed roughly even on operational profit. Now, do keep in mind that we did add a couple of trains, so it's going to add some running expenses. So it seems like this whole project so far has been sort of net neutral on our finances, which we could probably fine-tune that a bit to swing it a bit more in our favor, but I think I'd rather have the frequency of trains rather than the money that would come with it. And so I think this brings us to a good stopping point to talk about what we want to do next. And so I think one of the first things I want to do here soon is upgrade our B line to have a few more stops. I think instead of connecting to this Flores Street station, maybe we connect to a station at this corner here. Or actually, our D line can connect up here. I don't see any issues with that. I think a lot of these are overlapping anyway. But what I do want to do is do what we did to our A line. I want to turn this whole line into quad tracks and then add an express line. I think that would be really beneficial, especially for people all the way out here. That might help draw some of them in, considering it will be a little bit faster if we have an express line. Now, speaking of express lines, I do want to switch our express and locals on our A line. I think I might just do that off camera, since that's really just a logistical thing to change. We just have to switch the station order around. But I've gotten some comments, and it just seems like the most sense to make our express lines the inner two tracks and our local the outer two tracks. So I'll do that off camera between videos. We'll also take that opportunity to build up a lot of money, because as we saw with our A line, we still haven't fully recovered from upgrading this all to quad track tracks and stations. So the B line's a little bit longer. We are definitely going to need the money to do that. So I'll make sure that we save up enough money for that project, and then hopefully we can tackle that, if not in the next video, the one after that. However, I think with that, that's going to be all for this video. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.